today I'm speaking with Jeff Cox, the co-author of The Goal, A Process of Ongoing Improvement with Eliyahu Goldratt.
How you doing?
Jeff, good to chat with you.
Same here, Jack.
This book has been around a while.
Yes, it has. Since, I believe it was published in, 1985 was the first edition, and it's gone through several others, and is still in print today. Every once in a while it still makes a bestseller list. So. Yeah,
I mean, I'm just looking. Goldratt copyright wrote the first edition in 1984, and so this book has seriously got some legs and has sold a significant number of books.
Yes, I've heard, certainly in the millions. It's been going strong worldwide for quite a while. So
I hold this book up as it is the first, and if not the best, one of probably the top 3 best business parable novels, fables, whatever you want to call them.
Well, thank you.
Your character development is great. You actually want to know more about Alex and what's going on in the plant. I mean, it's fascinating stuff. How Goldratt is a statistician. What is Goldratt?
Well, Goldratt was an Israeli physicist and teacher, professor, and he got into business consulting in the early 1980s, late 70s, early 80s. And I met him I was working freelance for the late great Westinghouse Electric Corporation.
Oh my goodness!
And I transcribed, or I wrote a short piece describing his ideas. He gave a talk at to Westinghouse executives and managers concerning what ultimately became the theory of constraints. And I wrote a summary of what he said. He spoke for a good 2 or 3 hours. And I wrote a summary of what he said so it could be emailed and otherwise distributed to people who couldn't be there for the lecture. And Goldratt, read that and said that, with most people who write about his thinking, his ideas, he encountered a conceptual error typically within the first few paragraphs. And with me, he got all the way to page 4 before he found one. So we got to talking, and ultimately we began working together in winter of 1982. The book was finished in 1984. I don't know that it came out in print until 85.
You probably copyrighted it before.
Yeah. And was essentially, as I understand, self-published by him, by his outfit. And though it's been sought after by many publishers, he's retained full control over it. So, and it's gone on, and as I say, sold in the millions. And
I think it's the only book that's in our book that has a video, a dramatization of the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's audiobooks, but this is actually a dramatization of the actual story.
Oddly enough, I have never seen that, but that's I suppose neither here nor there. It was just sort of a derivative of what the novel was. So,
and in the time restriction that we have, could you give me the theory of constraints and the process of ongoing improvement?
Let's see. Well, the theory of constraints, I don't have anything in front of me that actually just summarizes it, but I'll do my best here. The theory of constraints looks at a total system from beginning to end, and in effect theorizes that every step of whatever process, and it can be a manufacturing process or it can be a service process, perhaps even an academic process, I don't know. But each step of each process each sub-process within the total system has different capacities, has variations within what's going on within it. And these are what typically tends to happen in business and in other, nonprofit organizations, whatever. What management tries to do is to get all the processes to line up so that they are balanced, so that they are, so it's a smooth flow from one to the other. Well, that's great if you can actually do that. Mm-hmm. But chances are you're going to spend many, many millions of dollars trying to achieve this, and a heck of a lot of time trying to achieve that. What the theory of constraints says is that you choose one constraint, or very often it's dictated for you by the system, by the realities of the system, and you manage according to all of the constraints, but in particular one, which is typically the smallest. You want to make sure that the bottleneck, the smallest constraint, mm-hmm. is equal to market demand. And then you want to time everything or set up everything else so that the bottleneck gets everything that it needs exactly when it needs it. And it doesn't matter if you optimize or you maximize efficiencies in the other processes. As long as that one bottleneck is getting what it needs when it needs it in order to meet market demand, you're good. Mm-hmm. And this flies in the face of a lot of conventional thinking. But you need that. You need it as a control mechanism, if nothing else. You need it for the same reason that a wine bottle has a neck. You need it as a control to regulate the flow. It's mm-hmm. a regulator of what the process is doing. And there are a bunch of sub rules and so on for how you do that. But in a nutshell, that's basically what it's all about.
And the way you present it in the book, the visualization of it in the book is dramatic. I mean, it really does work. And I was able to take that way, way back. I mean, I read this book in the mid-'80s. It was requested by a company in Milwaukee, ordered 10 copies, and I was able to, get to Larry Gadd and order the 10 copies, and I grabbed one and read it over the weekend, and I started looking at my little business and suddenly saw that, hey, I got a bottleneck. Everything
mm-hmm,
backs
mm-hmm,
up here.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, fascinating stuff. And
now, what a lot of people will try to do is they'll try to eliminate the bottleneck. The ideal or what you really want to do is know that you're going to need one, and then plan accordingly to where you want it to be strategically. So maybe it's in the release of materials, maybe it's somewhere else, but mm-hmm. Put it where you want it to be, and then design the rest of the system around it.
And that's kind of what people miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. What I'm writing now, which is oddly enough with the Goldratt Institute, they approached me earlier this year in 2008. That's one of the things that we are now doing a business novel on that very idea of where do you put your bottleneck, and how do you build a strategy around it so that you take today's reality and you make a future reality that's way superior to what you're experiencing now. So,
yeah. I mean, I just in the what resonates. I mean, is it the story that seems to resonate with people?
I think the goal was a true collaboration. It mixed my creative writing with Goldratt's thinking, and a lot of the plot is mathematically verifiable, which is something you won't find even in most business books.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a very visual writer, and that's just how I project the scenes that are in the novel, so that people can visualize, the steps of what's going on. It was, I wouldn't want to say based on personal experience, but it was based on. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in factories. I did in those days anyway. So I knew what they looked like. I knew the characters of the people. There are a lot of good people in business, and I knew that and that's what I also tried to project, is that the need to keep improving, and the pressures, and trying to do a really outstanding job. I just melded all of that together, and came out with a good story. I can't tell you the number of people who've told me that it was in effect a real page turner, which is something you would not expect.
That's exactly my point. I mean, that this book reads as a novel. You don't know that you're learning. I mean, it's the perfect, like I said, it's one of the top 3. And the only reason I'm not giving it the top is because I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. But I continually recommend it as probably the best business novel. So no, you succeeded in every possible way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And side note is probably 15 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, Eliyahu Goldratt called me out of the blue and said that he wanted to take over publishing. He wanted to use theory of constraints in publishing. And what did I think of the idea? And we had this long conversation. And he's a fascinating man, just incredible fast thinker and dynamic.
He's brilliant. He's certainly one of the most brilliant people, if not the most brilliant.
And is he still working with the Institute?
No, he's not. He's retired now, semi-retired at least. He has his own little ventures, or I wouldn't even say
dabbles
little,
in things.
Yeah, right.
Okay, back to the book.
Mm-hmm.
To close, what's at stake with this book? Like, why has it sold multiple millions of copies, do you think?
Well, let's see. I'm not sure I can really answer that very easily. It certainly, in terms of supply chains alone, it deals with very critical issues of how do you structure, and how do you take a complete system-wide view of things. It flies in the face, as I say, of a lot of conventional wisdom. You have just about every manager has in his or her gut the sense that every worker should be working all of the time. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, you actually create a very inefficient system. And even if it depends on the process and the resource and so forth. But even pushing it to 95% of the time, you create all kinds of excess inventory and so on. And I think it was, I don't mean to blow my horn at all, really, but I think it was, the points were made, through the story, and people responded to that, and they just enjoyed a good readable book. I've heard quite recently, through working on the new project, people telling, I heard there was one fellow telling me that he had every time he's read it multiple times, and every time it tells him something new, or he learns something new. So I think people just had that experience with it.
Yeah, when I reread it for inclusion in our book, probably 18 months ago now, we reread every one of the books again to make sure that they held up. And this not only held up, but we changed some things around in the functioning of our company again because of the book. Fascinating stuff. So, well, Jeff Cox, co-author along with Eliyahu Goldratt of The Goal. Thank you for chatting with me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.